Hey everyone, it's Jess, and in this video, I'm going to share my research proposal idea. So let's get started. My research proposal presentation is going to highlight a course that I created some years ago, and I've been refining over the course of my master's program and my doctoral program here with ITP. So the course's name is Mind, Body, Spirit Integration. And it's for the purposes of building emotional and spiritual intelligence for improved emotional and spiritual health. So can we improve the health of other individuals through their EQ and their SQ? And that's my main research question is, can the cultivation of EQ and SQ contribute to improved long-term mental health? So let's define what EQ is. EQ is defined as the ability to recognize, monitor, express, question, regulate, and alleviate negative thoughts without repressing or exaggerating information, according to Grillo 2010. And SQ, often called SI, but in my world, SI is often attributed to suicidal ideation. So for the purposes of this study, I will be labeling spiritual intelligence as SQ, which is defined as a profound self-awareness with inner knowing, deep intuition, a connection to nature and cosmos, and the ability to problem solve as it relates to one's meaning and value. Why do this study? What's the rationale? Why is it important? Well, according to the CDC, there is a prevalence of anxiety and depression among adults in the US. It is two of the most common mental health conditions being diagnosed today. And the statistics have increased, of course, between 2019 and 2022 due to COVID and all the lockdown measures. And interestingly, women are diagnosed at a higher rate with anxiety and depression when compared to men. But you'll see in these next slides that anxiety and depression has no discrimination against age, gender, or race. Here's a model illustrating how between the ages of 18 and 65 and older, who's the most affected by anxiety and depression? Well, you can see that every age has some level of anxiety and depression, but the people who are most affected are between the ages of 18 and 44. And this, is our working population, a majority of our working population. And then this is a chart illustrating how it affects people by race. And so we can see here that everybody's affected, but the majority of people affected are going to be coming from the African American non-Hispanic or the white non-Hispanic demographics. But like I say here, mental health or mental illness is not a race thing. And then finally, a chart illustrating the difference between men and women and their diagnoses in anxiety and depression. So again, women are at a higher rate, and you can see the women are the color of light pink, or that pink color. So it's quite a bit of a gap across all the scales. And so what can be done to alleviate these symptoms of anxiety and depression? Well, I'm arguing that by cultivating EQ and SQ, individuals will experience reduced symptoms of depression and anxiety. And that's what I'm hoping to test. So let's get into this course that I'll be conducting at BART Program's Methadone Clinic, working with substance use disorder patients, and it will be held for 10 weeks. Let's get into an overview of what the classes discuss. So we're going to be discussing the impact of the subconscious mind. We're going to discuss the influence of language and thought. We're going to discuss emotional and spiritual awareness. We'll be practicing some breathwork, meditation, and yoga every week. And we'll learn how mythology and archetypes can inform us on our state, our psychological state, or maybe the process of our psyche throughout the years past, as well as Indigenous storytelling for trauma. And so we'll actually apply the Indigenous storytelling piece. This is going to happen every week, but at the end, it's going to be a real major focus for patients. Weekly activities and assignments include breathing exercises, guided meditation practice, yoga practice, journal questions, and readings. It's going to be held at BART Programs. It's a medicine-assisted outpatient treatment center. It's located in Sacramento off 310 Harris Avenue. Class will be held from May 6th, and it'll be held for 10 weeks until July 8th. It'll be held every Tuesday from 11 a.m. On October 7th, I'll be doing a 3-month interview follow-up, and on January 6th, I'll be doing a 6-month interview follow-up of my patients who participate. And so this is an overview of one of the weeks, and this is module 3. So this will be week 4. So it has major components such as a lecture on the topic of discussion, and this week it's identifying and transforming self-talk habits. We have a brief reading that's connected to this topic. We have a somatic practice or somatic practices, journal questions, which is serves as an exit ticket. I was a teacher for almost every age group, so we have an exit ticket that tells me that 1, you were in class, so it's kind of like a participation point, and then 2, I get to evaluate the journal questions from a qualitative point of view. And the assessments will serve as another exit ticket, at least for the very first class, which is an orientation. The assessment is going to be like a base assessment. Where is your EQ? Where is your SQ? And then we'll do another assessment at the 10-week mark. Where are you now? And then every week there's going to be surveys, so that can kind of count as an assessment, which is quantitative. I'll be asked, how often did you practice on your own, whether it was yoga or meditation? What worked for you most? What did you find helpful? And any comments that patients would like to make. So it's a combination of qualitative and quantitative. There's a component of that every week. And then homework assignments, and this is for the patient to engage in a deliberate practice. And there's a book out there that discusses the new science of long-term behavioral change. But the reason why I'm doing homework is because we have to practice these new tools for emotional and spiritual wellness in order for the long-term behavioral change to take place. So in week 1, patients will take their initial assessment. The initial assessments we'll get into in just a moment on where those came from and why I'm using those. In week 10, I'm going to reevaluate participants' EQ and SQ. At the 3-month follow-up, I'll be conducting a one-on-one, so it's a very private, intimate, open-ended question interview, and this will evaluate any lasting effects that took place, and then again at 6 months to see if they retained any of those lasting effects. And also an open-ended question interview, so this kind of picks up on the nuance of their experience and how it may be impacting their life today. So here's an example of the EQ and SQ assessments that I'll be conducting with my participants. The EQ assessment was adapted from a Psychology Today's 20-item EQ intelligence test. I found the test to be very accurate, and not just accurate, but easy to implement because it's only 20 questions, really focuses on the individual's ability to cope with certain emotions and awareness of how those emotions either come out or affect others. And so that's why I chose that 20-item test. And for the SQ assessment, I adapted this from the 29-item questionnaire that was created by Hassan Abdulazadeh. He wrote a paper on, how to evaluate spiritual intelligence. And so I took his 29-item. There were a few phrases and words that were altered to accommodate for the research participants that I anticipate to have. So just so that there was more clarity and understanding. Some of the words like God, I have included God or higher power. And so again, these assessments were chosen based off of their simplicity, easy to apply, and the length of the assessment really, as well as the questions that they were asking. In order to truly assess any impacts that the course has made on these 10 to 12 participants that I'll be having, and right now I have 12 participants signed up, I'm going to be choosing a control group at random, and so it'll be 10 participants, 10 patients, not necessarily my own. I have other counselors here who are willing to support me in this endeavor. And so I'll be just randomly choosing and then providing this control group with an initial assessment, and as well as a 3-month and 6-month interview to see where are you today, just to get an idea of their MAT treatment, what's helping them in the MAT treatment, so to speak, and then in comparison to the participation group, we'll be having like an extra course, extra support by taking this class. That'll help me kind of evaluate what is the true impact of this course. And I think it's important to mention that the participants that I do have in my course, they've chosen to be in my course. So that's saying something already. The 12 people that I have who signed up chose to sign up based off of the flyer that was posted throughout the clinic. For this research project, I chose to incorporate organic inquiry. And the reason being is because organic inquiry allows for the exploration of deep reflections, lived experiences, and internal shifts. That's really what the study is about. I want to see how is this impacting people and their lives and their lived experiences, how they reflect upon things, how they process information. Are things improving? Are they changing? And it allows for subjectivity exploration, so exploration of emotions and intuitions of my participants. It allows me to co-create with my participants, so it allows for that boundary between the researcher, who is me, and the participants. And in this situation, I'm not only researcher, but I'm instructor as well. And so that kind of allows me to have a little bit more communication and community with my participants as a researcher. And then finally, it allows me to look through a phenomenological lens, and allows me to explore the topic of spirituality and identity shifts, areas of healing and transformation, which is ultimately what I want to know about. So some statistics on the interventions that I've chosen. As you can see, there's authors Ohia et al., Soroha et al., and Ramanathan et al. They reveal the significant impact of yoga practice on mental health across a range of populations, including inmates. And I think that's really significant. I brought that up as a point to say this is the reason why I've chosen to incorporate yoga, breathwork, meditation practices. Moreover, Kafka et al., Oliveira et al., and Torres et al. Demonstrate the positive effects of meditation on mental health and overall well-being. So just some statistics to go along with my rationale. And these are my references. So thanks for watching my video, and hope you guys check out the next video in the future. Namaste.